She loved to work. She truly, truly did.
Oh, I know a great deal about Johnny Cool. Maybe more than anyone. I know he's a killer. I've seen him kill. But I don't know who turned him into a murder machine and why he kills. Yet I love him. Even though I know very well that it's just as easy for him to kill me as it is to kiss me.
But she made this conscious decision to do non-Samantha roles.
We eloped. We just took off, got married in El Paso. I mean, I was crazy about her. I mean, I was in love with her.
Liz was an amazing comedian. She was one of those people who was an absolutely incredibly beautiful woman, but she wasn't afraid to look silly.
You know, she was a homebody. She was this superstar homebody.
So after Bewitched, she was obviously this huge star, and I had no idea until I read your book that she was this queen of TV movies. I feel like she could have totally just been like, I'm done. I'm just like going to go be with my family and live the rest of my life and been fine. But she really worked. And talk a little bit about the types of roles she went after post Bewitched.
Yeah, she loved to work. She truly, truly did. And she probably felt at some point that she probably could have been a movie star, at least she wanted it. So that's, it was too late by the time Bewitched ended for her to do that. So she threw herself into films for television. But she made this conscious decision to do non-Samantha roles. And the first one she did was The Victim, where she was she was stalked essentially by George Maharis. She was in this like big house in the middle of the night, whatever. And that was the first thing she did, was The Victim. You never saw Samantha as a victim. And then she did A Case of Rape for NBC. And then she did The Legend of Lizzie Borden, both of which I still have not been able to watch all the way through, especially A Case of Rape. But there were 2 rape scenes in the movie, in the original script. And when NBC was negotiating with her about doing the film, they wanted to take out one of the rape scenes. And she's like, again, she, pulled her weight. She goes, keep both rape scenes in or find another actress. Well, they kept both rape scenes in. And she was Emmy nominated for that. She was also Emmy nominated for Bewitched. And she was Emmy nominated for The Legend of Lizzie Borden. But she never won. So I think that kind of hurt too. And I had talked with Richard Michaels about this. He had said that he felt the industry was jealous of Elizabeth. She was beautiful, rich, the daughter of, Robert Montgomery, prestigious, had a hit show. They're going to give her an Emmy on top of it all. I mean, her and Susan Lucci, right? No, I don't think Susan Lucci ever won, or did she? Did she win in the end?
I feel like she finally won after so many years.
She won something. Yeah. But at the time, they were neck and neck for being losers, in that. So, but she didn't win, I think, and again, this is something that Richard Michaels and I were talking about. She didn't play the game. She didn't go to Hollywood parties. She didn't care about that. She was a homebody. She was this superstar homebody.
It's true. And I feel like in more recent years, there have been, either through just journalism or TV shows and film, that show a little bit in the inside look and how people have to campaign for awards. And we see, and I'm sure the same was done. If she had been that type of person, the network, or I'm going to go to every party and schmooze, then maybe you get those awards. But prioritizing family and not being that person is more important, ultimately, at least was to her.
Absolutely.
And so she, it's also impressive though, you're listing off these roles in these dark TV movies. And I feel like not that many people are able to make that shift where they have such an iconic character. And then a lot of people do try when they get out of that TV show that they've been playing, and they'll try to go do something darker. And then it's hard. It's hard for audiences to accept them as something new. And it's hard to get cast sometimes into something was like, well, I always see you as this character. She found a lot of success. At least, she was working and was the queen of TV movies. It's fairly remarkable. And I would imagine also shows off her technical ability as an actor.
Well, she had always said that on Bewitched in particular, it was like 8 years of college for her. She really learned the ins and outs. I mean, obviously, she did those other shows, but this is where she was in a position of control where she could relax a little bit and study the camera work, the directing, and, the special effects or all of that. So she took all of that in. And, people say, oh, well, she is this amazing. She does these dramas now, so that means she's a great actress. Well, comedy is not easy.
Comedy is so hard, yeah.
Right? I mean, Carol Burnett, again, her friend, Carol Burnett did Friendly Fire, which was about the Vietnam War, and she lost a son to friendly fire based on a true story. When she did that movie, everybody said, oh, you're such a wonderful actress. Oh, my gosh. Well, what the hell do you think she was doing on the Carol Burnett show, for 11 years and all that comedic genius? So, yes, it was great for her to be acknowledged as a dramatic actress, but as an actress herself, she already proved her talent.
Yeah, and the people who make it look like they're not acting are always the ones that people don't realize are working really hard and are just putting in the time and effort, and only that's the facade. You think they're not acting, and they make it look easy. You never really feel Meryl Streep acting. She just is, but she works so hard at it. So clearly she was, despite never getting the awards, her body of work shows that she was incredibly technically skilled, and as we said before, had that thing that made people want to watch her every single week. And so you add those two things up, you often get a very long and illustrious career. She's got a statue, she's got an actual statue, not an Oscar statue or an Emmy statue. She's got an actual statue, which is probably even cooler.
In Salem, Massachusetts. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Have you been there?
I have not. There was a reunion years ago of some of the cast members when that was erected in Salem, but I was caring for my parents, so I was unable to attend.
Yeah. I know there was a little bit of debate in Salem. I think you talk about in the book about like how much are we leaning into this witch thing, not the witch thing. And I think people were kind of like, yeah, but it's a sitcom. Let's not get hysterical here.
Yeah. I mean, when they first started the show, the ABC was concerned that people would think that Samantha was married to the devil when she would be a daughter of Satan. And Bill Asher finally had to say to them, guys, this is a TV show. If anything, it's a love story. It's about two very different people who love each other despite those differences, and they focus on what makes them the same, which is really their heart and their humanity. Samantha was the most human, many times in the whole cast of mortals on that show.
I feel like if it was made today, the end of season 1 would be the twist that we find out he is the devil. The 2026 version is that,
Absolutely. That probably would be it.
You need people to hit the streaming channel, keep going.
Oh my gosh, you are so right. You are so on the nose.
So talk. Oh yeah, exactly. But you're so twitched on the nose here. So talk about the cast. I mean, she sort of famously, there was issues with Agnes Moorehead, issues in a different way with Dick York. I guess let's talk first about Agnes. What was the relationship like?
They adored each other. I mean, Agnes Moorehead respected her even before she was on Bewitched because of Robert Montgomery. She knew where this woman came from. And even when, there might have been potential tiffs, they adored each other. One thing I do remember is when I was writing the book and I had met Elizabeth, and on some wall in Hollywood somewhere, it said, Agnes, somebody wrote in graffiti, Agnes Moorehead is gone. And I told Elizabeth about that, and she's like, oh, she finally made it, huh? But one thing that upset Elizabeth about Agnes, really, and I think the only thing, is that Agnes was not too nice to Dick Sargent initially when he replaced Dick York, because Agnes Moorehead adored Dick York. Just had an amazing affection for him. Yeah. And so when Agnes Moorehead And Dick Sargent and Elizabeth got together for the first reading of the first script. Agnes Moorehead, David White told me this now. David White, who played Larry Tate. He told me that she stood up and said, I don't like change. So finally, Aggie was giving these kinds of digs to Dick Sargent for a great deal of time. And finally, Elizabeth called her over and says, look, this is a very difficult thing for Dick to be doing. He's replacing someone who established a role, so let's ease up on him. And David White, again, had told me when they went to Salem for on-location shooting for the Witches convention and all of that in the 7th year, that Dick Sargent was crying on the plane because Agnes Moorehead had made him cry. So it was tough. It was tough. So that, I think, was the only real issue that Elizabeth had with Agnes Moorehead. Towards the end, they both were, Elizabeth was Emmy nominated for lead actress, and Agnes Moorehead was Emmy nominated for supporting actress. At one point, they were both nominated for Best Lead Actress in a Comedy. So there might have been some rivalry there, because that was big for Agnes to be considered a lead in that role when really she was a supporting. So there was that. But beyond that...
And then Dick York, I think it sounds like there was a shift at some point where they got along great. She really liked Dick York, but then over the time, I don't know, feelings developed one way and she kind of started to feel uncomfortable with him.
Yeah, I never heard any of that. From her, and he never said anything about that. But I had learned later that he may have had a crush on her and she might have felt uncomfortable. I can't validate that. All I know is the show was really about Samantha and Darren, and she respected what he brought to that program. And she also respected what Dick Sargent brought to this show. She really didn't even want to talk about the two Darrens until I says, Elizabeth, you have to explain, how you feel. People are going to want to know, what your position is on who was the better Darren.